You talk throughout the book about confusion, about feeling confused, about being pulled in different directions, and essentially tangling with that question over and over again about whether to choose safety versus seeking your true identity. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, I think, and I write about it quite often, that, you know, yes, I was often confused. I was confused about the definition of freedom for a woman, a young woman my age who'd been told about safety. I was confused about the do's and the don'ts of the Magnolia Code. But, I wanted to figure it out. As Billy said regarding choice, there's always a price to pay, Joni, but often it is worth it. But if I may continue in this chapter of the Amazon and farther south, I need to tell you of a moment where Cactus Pete really showed up. I was hitching with three Brazilian journalists. I stood on the side of the road just outside of Guayaquil in a drizzling rain, our hitchhiking thumbs outstretched, hoping for a ride to Quito. A truck stopped. The three men threw themselves and our satchels up into the back of the semi-detached rear cab of the rusted green vehicle. But before the men could pull me aboard, the truck drove off. The license plate slowly faded from view, leaving me engulfed by the smell of cheap gasoline. I heard the men yelling at the driver to stop, but to no avail. All my possessions, including my identity papers, were on the truck. Without the assurance of a U.S. passport telling the world I was American, a 27-year-old white woman with visas, I fell into a deep panic. Adding to the absence of clothes and papers was the loss of my camera, an undeveloped film, proof of one of my traveling purposes. I felt naked, lost, trapped, and vulnerable. Along with my anxiety, I sat down on a big moss rock. The drizzle turned into a downpour. But the despair of losing the symbols of my identity wasn't a new experience. I realize now I had accumulated numerous sufferings of self-doubt, learning to lean on my rebellious bravado and my practice persona, providing a courageous, if bent, crutch with which to lead. I had not yet built inner values strong enough to sustain me in such moments as this one. But something happened on that road. As I pushed myself up from the rock and began walking, I felt the miracle of grace accompanying me. I was allowed a glimpse into the core of my instinctual self-confidence, so much more powerful than the false promise of my persona. Even without my passport and possessions, I had all I needed, I realized. I have read that when in despair, one needs to take back parts of oneself. I didn't know it that day on the road, but those parts I needed to regain belonged to the feisty me, the part of me who was Cactus Pete, full of determination to be myself, even though I didn't know then what that meant. Cactus was in my core, walking with me down the road.